Florida is back in the Final Four for the first time since 2014, and their head coach, Todd Golden, now joins us. Todd, welcome. How would you describe the last 48 hours?
It's been pretty amazing, man. Pretty special. Obviously, really proud of our group and survive in advance, man. Big games this past weekend in San Francisco. Thought we played great against Maryland and had some issues against Texas Tech, a great club. But at the end of the day, our guys found a way.
Todd, I know that the stage obviously speaks for itself, but in all your time in basketball, have you ever been a part of a comeback like the one you were a part of on Saturday?
Uh, not, maybe one. On my first year at San Francisco, we were at Fresno State. I think we were down 7 or 8 with a minute and a half to go, and came back and found a way to win in regulation. And similar feel, similar vibes, but obviously under those circumstances, with an opportunity to go to the Final Four on the line, that was by far the most special one.
So you're down 9 points with just about 3 minutes to play, and it feels like nothing is going your way. What did you say to your team?
Well, first of all, Tommy hit that three right before we used our last timeout, and that got it down to 6. And at the under 4 minute media right before that, we just talked about staying the course. And obviously we knew we had to play better. We weren't making enough winning plays. We weren't executing well enough offensively. We weren't getting enough rebounds. And, we just talked about how, time was of the essence. And if we didn't start finding a way to execute a little bit better, we were going home. And, it certainly didn't hurt that we made our last 4 threes in that ball game as well.
Did you feel a little bit extra magic because the site was San Francisco and that was such a big part of how you started your coaching career?
I don't know if we pulled any extra magic from it, but it definitely made it even sweeter to do it there. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of friends and family in the building, and felt a lot of great support from the city all week. And, for our guys to be able to experience being out there and kind of being around another basketball family and to be able to become victorious was just amazing.
Well, it's also sweeter to do things like this when you have guards like Walter Clayton Jr., and you have said repeatedly that he's a first-team All-American and the best guard in the sport. But as you watch this unfold from your vantage point, what was it like seeing him make some of the shots that he made down the stretch to erase that deficit?
In those moments, and it's what makes Walt special. He's able to just kind of contain his emotions and never get too high, never get too low. And, as he's proven over these past couple of weeks, no moment is too big for him. And you always want a veteran that's experienced, that's a great player to be able to lead your team in those moments. And, Walter's done that for us all year. And so when he pulled that first three and knocked it down to tie the game, and then we go down 2, and he dribbles it back out and, stops and pops off a quick kind of 180 turnaround. Those are big time shots that only a big time player like him can take and make.
And, the interesting thing about Walter Clayton Jr., and it obviously goes in line with a lot of the players on your roster, is he is a mid-major transfer who put up big numbers at the mid-major level and has had no drop-off as he's transitioned to power conference basketball. I remember talking to you 2 years ago when you were putting together your transfer class, and we were talking about, at least from my perspective, whether or not these guys could produce at the high major level. What did you see, and not just Walter Clayton Jr., but some of the other guys that you added to build this roster, Will Richard and others, that made you think that this was the way that you could bring Florida back?
Yeah, well, you hit it first. All of these guys that we've been fortunate enough to add were high-level producers at their previous stops, regardless of where it was. And I think the next kind of, intangible or variable that we've noticed as well is that we've been able to get guys from really good programs, and they've been really well coached before they got to us also. You look at Walter. Obviously, he comes, from Iona and had the opportunity to play for Rick Pitino, one of the best coaches, I should say, in our sport. Obviously Zion Poland played for Mike Magpie, one of my great friends at Riverside, who just got the Fordham job. Micah Hanlockton played for Dan D'Antoni, a guy that had a lot of NBA experience. Tyrese Samuel played for Shaheen Holloway, a great competitor, at Seton Hall. And the same goes for this past year. Elijah Martin played for Dusty May at FAU, and they had great success in the tournament. Ruben Chinyelu played for my mentor, Kyle Smith. The list goes on and on. But, just being a part of really strong programs, coming from programs where they've been coached and hard coached before, it definitely makes the transition easier. And I think those guys have been really successful for us.
Your tenure at Florida is never going to be the same again moving forward because you have joined at a very young age an elite group as a coach in the Final Four. How do you plan on balancing recruiting moving forward, the portal versus the high school world?
Well, I'm going to add one more element to that. Our own team is going to be the first element of that, just making sure we can do everything we can to retain the talented players on a roster with eligibility. And we have a lot of those guys right now that we're going to focus on and make sure we take care of first. And then, we'll continue to fill in with the portal where we see fit. We have some really talented high school guys that are signed and ready to come in as well. And that's going to be a balance, and that's going to be year to year, so to speak. But our goal is to always have a great nucleus within our program here at Florida, guys that are kind of growing from within. And, seeing guys like that have good success has been a big part of our success this year.
So much, Todd, especially this time of year as we get into April and May, the transfer portal is something that dominates the headlines with graphics, with edit videos for commitments. But I think we're seeing now in this climate, especially with the teams who are in the Final Four, Houston, Auburn, and Florida, that retention deserves more attention. How much does the fact that you had this nucleus of players, the majority of them, on an NCAA tournament team a year ago factor in to Florida's ability to really hit the ground running at the start of this year?
I think it's everything, and I can't remember if it was you that tweeted it or somebody mentioned, that 3 of the 4 teams in the Final Four this year have, somewhat around a 70% retention rate from last year's roster, something like that. Obviously Duke is much lower, but when you can recruit guys like Cooper Flagg and Maluach, that changes the game a little bit, but for my program, for Bruce at Auburn and for Coach Sampson at Houston, they're doing it with a lot of guys that have been in their program for a number of years. And that retention piece, I think, is very valuable right now.
You did not win an NCAA tournament game a year ago. You told me over the summer that the Colorado game haunted you for a long time after that. How did this group get to the Final Four after not having an NCAA tournament win on its resume prior to this season?
The hunger and just having that chip on their shoulder from falling a little bit short last year in 2 ways. We lost an SEC championship game to Auburn last year, and then we move on to the NCAA tournament and fall to Colorado. We felt like we had left some things on the table last season, even though we had a great year. And again, that retention piece, bringing a big nucleus back of young, hungry guys that wanted to be able to take the season further. And then add in, Elijah Martin and Ruben Chinilu, Sam Alexis, guys that had success and could bring another layer of just toughness and physicality to our crew. Made us a complete group. And, our senior leaders have done a great job in the backcourt all year. Our young bigs have been phenomenal and have been a huge part of our success. But just kind of the continuity piece, as well as the guys that we added, just gave us that complete team that's allowed us to make a deep run in this tournament this year.
When you're the head coach at Florida and you've embraced this, you know that you are sitting in a seat where one of the best to ever do it has sat in Billy Donovan. I'm curious, have you talked to Billy since the win on Saturday, and do you plan, if you haven't talked to him, to reach out to him on how to deal with this week moving forward as you enter your first Final Four?
Yeah, he's been awesome about checking in with us after, some of our big wins this year. I haven't talked to Coach since we moved on, but I'm definitely looking forward to catching up with him this week. If his time permits, because obviously this is a new experience for all of us, including me, heading to the Final Four and getting to compete. And I know there's going to be a lot of media attention. I know there's going to be people pulling us a lot of different directions, and we got to do what we can to make sure we keep the main goal. But, getting a little advice from Coach Donovan certainly couldn't hurt this week.
Well, the great part is Florida's going to the Final Four. I'm sure something that's tugging at you inside is your opponent, and your opponent, Auburn, is a place, I'm old enough to remember when you were the director of basketball operations in your first power conference job when you left Columbia. That's a place that's very special to you, and the head coach is somebody in Bruce Pearl who gave you your first shot at the power conference level. What are the emotions like knowing that you're not just going to coach against your friend and mentor, but you're going to do it in the Final Four?
It's crazy, to be honest. I think if we would have said this at the beginning of the year, a lot of people would have laughed at us, that we would have been meeting in the Final Four. Surreal. As Bruce is one of my mentors, and his son Steven's one of my best friends. And I've FaceTimed with Steven last night after they got the win. We were just sitting there shaking our head like, really? We're meeting up again here in the Final Four. Like, it's hard to believe. But I'm incredibly happy for them. And just proud of the success that their programs had, and I know they feel the same way about us. And if you're gonna play somebody you care about, you might as well make it in the Final Four, where at least one of you guys will have an opportunity to go win the national championship in the next game you play in.
You beat Auburn at Auburn earlier this season. How do you do it again on Saturday?
We played really, really well in that game. We rebounded well. We made a lot of shots. I think we made 13 threes. We were physical. I thought we played a complete game, and we're going to have to do it again, to be victorious. Obviously, I think Auburn's back to playing some really, really good basketball. They played really well in the second half against Michigan after getting down, and then they looked like themselves for 40 minutes against Michigan State. So kind of getting Auburn and getting back to their peak, I think is going to be a big challenge for us. And, we should have some confidence because we've had success against them earlier in the year. But we got to also understand that we got to play about our A game here on Saturday if we want to stay alive for Monday's championship game.
Todd, does your life feel like a movie right now with how quickly all of this has happened?
Yeah, it feels a little surreal, but we've worked hard to get here, man. And I've been fortunate enough to surround myself with a great staff, and we've recruited really, really well. Guys that really are excited about being here at Florida. And, did it happen a little faster than we expected? Maybe. But it's all the function of great work done by a lot of people pulling the same direction.
If your life was a movie, who plays Todd Golden?
You're not getting me on that, man. I'm gonna let you can ask Kyle Smith next time you talk to him and see what he says. I'll let him take the reins on that.
Fair enough. Well, Todd, we appreciate a couple minutes, know how busy you are. Congratulations on all your success, and look forward to seeing you and the Gators in San Antonio. Good
talking to you, John. I'll talk to you soon, brother. Take care.
You got it. It's Florida head coach Todd Golden. I'm Jon Rothstein. Remember, we sleep in May.